Testing. Hi, David.
There he is.
Say something and see if he says something.
Norma.
Hi, Brent. Can you hear?
Yes.
Good morning. Okay.
All right.
All right.
You look at church service.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's Kristen.
Let us know. Okay.
Norma's on the move, obviously.
Yes. Ben just came down to make sure I was connected. 'Cause
Okay.
last week, I tried for 20 minutes to get on and
No.
never made it. So here I am.
Well, one thing we invite friends to do as we settle in is to mute your mic if you can, only because of feedback. We get more people on, there's more feedback.
No, that's not what I wanted.
If you're on a laptop or something, down on the bottom left in the
Well, now I've
toolbar,
messed
there should
things
be a microphone that you can hit the mute.
Well, now I've got my camera or something, and I don't know how to get out of it. Oh, for Pete's sake. Oh, there we go.
And if you want to see everybody instead of just who's speaking, up at the top, there's a thing that either says speaker view or grid. If you do the grid, you see everybody.
I'm on my phone, so I don't see any of the things that you're telling about.
Yeah, I don't know where, if,
We see you.
yeah, you can mute your phone however you would normally mute your phone. If you're on speakerphone, it doesn't matter if only one extra person. But if we get a lot of people, it turns into feedback.
Mm.
Oh, I can mute you, Norma. So if you want to talk, wave, and I'll unmute you.
David Hobbs.
Well, it is time to begin, so I know we'll have some others join us as they can. Welcome to those near and far. Happy to see David Hobson here, and it's nice to see Kristen down from Chicago, I guess, unless Dan's up there. And Della and Carrie. I wonder if there are prayer concerns or joys that folks would like to share. If you would just unmute yourself or wave at me and I'll unmute you.
I'm here.
Hi, Shirley.
Good to see my brother David Mills from Florida. Wave, Dave.
My third attempt worked.
All right.
I missed last week and the week before because I couldn't get it working. So I changed from a Chrome browser to Internet Explorer browser. That's all it took.
All right, good. I just got word this week that both Mike Moyer and Justin Weber are off the ventilators. They have a long road to recovery yet, but they have made that much progress in weeks.
Good.
That's really good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go into a period of silence, and when I feel led, I'll bring us some thoughts for the morning, little message. Well, as many of you know, if not all of you, a few years ago, probably longer than I think, a couple of us started a group called the Association of Bad Friends. And some people think that we celebrate our badness, that's what the group's about. It's not, although we do celebrate certain Quakers whom the Quaker activist Bayard Rustin called angelic troublemakers, those people who are strong in their social witness. But mostly the Association of Bad Friends was started, and it says in its guiding principles as as a humor site, but also one that was for people who admitted they just weren't very good at being good Quakers. We don't celebrate that. It's just we own that we're not always very good at being good. And now there are over 6,200 members worldwide. You know, it's interesting that people have joined. And among the conversations that at times we've had privately are, it's not that we don't want to be good or even know what it means to be good, or have had models about goodness. I mean, I've been blessed in my life to be surrounded by all kinds of people who I hate to admit, but filled me with a sort of spiritual envy. I mean, if envy is one of the 7 deadly sins, I suppose spiritual envy's got to be even deadlier. But these people seem, as I look at them, to be pretty certain of God's will for their life and able to follow it and live in accordance to Christ's teachings in a way that I don't. If anything, I remind myself more of one of the lost sheep of one of Jesus' parables. I'm part of the flock, but I'm easily distracted. And so, you know, there's a butterfly there, or there's a path over there that looks interesting, or and so I go wandering off from the flock, and hopefully don't fall off a cliff or anything, but have to rely on the Good Shepherd to bring me back, to find me, that great love. And so it's been a lifetime of learning for me that being a faithful Christian often doesn't have so much to do with our actions. Sometimes even those who seem outwardly to have it all together don't exactly, but that it's about our inward life and holding to what the early Quakers called that which is eternal. And for me, one of the biggest ones has been learning to trust in God and God's goodness, and learning that God is faithful even in the days when I'm confused. And the world is often confusing in these days, it seems like. One of the things we did growing up, we did lots of things in our church to teach us a Bible, but one that we did was we used to memorize verses. And I've talked about that in the past about, memorizing the verse in John, Jesus wept, because that was an easy one. It got as many points as a long section. But there was, we often won prizes too. You know, in the bad years, you got a new Bible or something. that didn't seem very exciting in a congregation was filled with Bibles and homes that were filled with Bibles. But other times we won different things. One year, as a 6th grade winner boy, I won an airplane trip. I'd never flown before, and that was the start of my years-long fear of flying. But that's another story, how that happened and what transpired on that. But one of the verses, the longest verses that I memorized was from 2 Timothy 1:12. And Paul's writing to Timothy, and he says, "For which cause I often suffer these things. Nevertheless, I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day." Of course, that's the King James version, but that's the one we learned. And that verse was an easy one to remember because we often sang it as the chorus of one of the hymns in our church. And I won't sing it for you, but it's, I know whom I have believed and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I've committed unto him against that day. In these days of lots of uncertainty about the coronavirus, our individual health, the health of our society, economics, and everything, I think it's a good time to remember that the psalmist does not write, "I will lift up mine eyes unto Washington or any other place," but rather, "I will lift up mine eyes into the hills from whence comes my help. My help comes from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will neither slumber nor sleep." My help comes from the Lord. And that's something that this bad Quaker at least needs to remember. In these days of so much information coming at us and so much uncertainty, that as a Mennonite writer I was reading this week says, far too often we look to the political institutions or the human institutions for solutions. It reminds me of the voice, lean not into thine own understanding. But we're called to learn to trust into God. The early Quakers knew that. And again, they urged us to hold fast to that which is eternal. English Quaker John Bellows said, "I know of no other way in these deeper depths of trusting in the name of the Lord and staying upon God than sinking into silence and nothingness before him. So long as the enemy can keep us reasoning, he can buffet us to and fro. But the true solemn silence of the soul before God, there he cannot follow." I love that idea. And perhaps this is one of those times when we can learn to sink into silence. We have more opportunities for solitude and to use it to spend time with God. Which then takes me back to Timothy. The verse in more modern language says, "For I know the one in whom I have given my trust. And I am sure that he is able to guard until that day what I have entrusted to him." May we entrust to that which is eternal, the great love of God, this day and tomorrow, and indeed all of our lives. Amen. Well, thank you, friends, for joining in our worship today. It's good to see folks. Um, if all goes well, I tried recording the last few weeks, and last week Sylvia's message didn't record right, and I couldn't upload it to YouTube or our website. So hopefully this week will work better. If somebody's a Zoom expert, I have the files. I'll be happy to send them to you. If you think you can revive last week's, which would be perfect for an Easter message. Anybody have any closing remarks before Zoom shuts us off?
I received something from my granddaughter-in-law last week. It came on a bad day, and it's very short, but if you think about it, I think you said some of this. The quote was, "Talk to God before you overthink."
I'm in the mask making business. If anyone would like one, I'll be glad to send you one. Send me an email and I'll get it to you.
Well, again, thanks all and blessings on you this coming day and week. And hopefully we'll be together again, meeting for worship via Zoom, a phrase I never thought I'd hear in my lifetime. But we Quakers are good at doing meeting for worship with attention to all kinds of things. So be well, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.